Hello everyone, this is a brief overview of Chapter 1 of the textbook. This chapter is a really good overview of a lot of the subjects that we're going to be talking about, and it has an impact on all of the subjects because we're talking about the social side of information technology, specifically the roles that you as a manager will play in the adoption and use of the technology to support the business and the strategies of the organization. Now, this first module is going to talk through chapters 1, 2, and 4. Chapter 1 being the role of managers with technology, and Chapter 2 being strategy, and Chapter 4 being business processes. So this chapter really will tie together a lot of the topics that bring those two next chapters together. So we're going to talk about managers in this video very briefly. This is a high-level overview because I expect you to read the text. We're going to talk about managers, their role in the organization, but we'll also look at the importance of understanding how to work with people to be able to implement technology that will support your strategy. And the strategy is made up of the long-term vision of your organization and your plans, your directions, your products, your processes, how you're going to accomplish that strategy. And then Chapter 4 talks about business processes and possible IT outsourcing. And in that chapter, we'll look at the actual processes within the organization and talk through that aspect of technology. So let's get started here in Chapter 1, and I will walk through an overview of this chapter for you very briefly. And then when you go in to read about it, you should have the forest in place so that you can put the trees with it. So let's get started. The title of Chapter 1 is that managers are the key to information technology results. And a lot of my previous students have mentioned that they really never thought about this before. They felt like technology or the IT department or the IS department or whatever it's called at your organization, you know, they needed to work in their little basement, and you only call them if you had a problem, and otherwise you didn't hear from them and they didn't hear from you. But really, the managers within the organization are the key to making sure that things are successful. The learning objectives is for you to understand why managers need to understand these critical principles to provide leadership for different projects, and for you to kind of answer the question for yourself if you're prepared to get involved with IT at the appropriate times and on the appropriate issues. And hopefully this material can help you to understand what those appropriate times would be and what those appropriate issues would be. So let's get started with why managers need to understand information technology. To begin with, managers frame the opportunities and threats for other people to understand, or at least they should. The manager should be the in-between to help the people doing the work, carrying out the processes, to understand what they're doing and how they need their data and where they need their data and when they need their data, so that you can then talk to the technology department and make sure that they're able to provide what your people need to carry out the business processes. And so you need to be able to frame opportunities and threats in ways that both sides can understand. Some people think that it's the job of the IT manager to branch across into the organization and understand the organization. I personally believe that it needs to be both. The business managers need to understand the technology, and the IT managers need to understand the business, so that together they can frame this communication in a way that makes sense to the people who are using it. You also, as a manager, need to be able to prioritize problems and evaluate different solutions. This does require some technology knowledge. It doesn't mean that you're an expert, but it means that you at least can talk a little bit of the talk and understand the basics of what's going on and what's possible. And hopefully we'll be able to help you with that in this class. Managers will define IT policies that best meet organizational needs and make any decisions when implementing or many decisions when implementing a new IT solution. And we'll talk about those decisions in a moment. They're not all technology decisions. A lot of those decisions in implementation deal with people and the social side of technology implementations, not just the technical side of does it actually work. Managers are also responsible for helping to look for innovative ways that business practices can be automated. I think that It's not just looking at the latest and greatest technology, because the latest and greatest sometimes is the bleeding edge instead of the leading edge. And so if you just adopt for the sake of adoption, that might not fit within your business strategy. And some organizations do that, and some people like to play with gadgets, and so they think if there's something new, they've got to have it. When in reality, that expensive toy may not actually be providing any greater support or benefit to the organization than the older tool that was there, that was in place. So it's the manager's job to see not just what is possible, but how much of an impact it would make. Just because if you're a moving business, just because there's a new model truck out on the market, a new model moving truck, that doesn't mean you necessarily go out and buy the new one just because there's a new one on the market. You would evaluate and see if it would be able to provide you some advantages over your older existing truck, and you would decide, using business knowledge and some math and accounting and some risk analysis and looking at your depreciation of your assets, you would determine if it was better or not to keep what you've got or to get the new product. But sometimes when it comes to technology, people just kind of run after the latest and greatest. And sometimes it's not the latest and greatest technology that we need, but we need to change business practices and processes to fit better within the new technologically inclined world that we live in. So that's part of the role of the manager, is to see this from both sides. Do we need the technology, or do we need to update our practices? Will the technology make a difference, or is it like just a new model truck and it's not going to do anything except smell better than the old truck? So those are some of the things that managers need to think through for the good of the organization. And managers are responsible to help create sustainable competitive advantage through information technology.